This is VOA News. I'm Marissa Melton. Student protesters in Hong Kong engaged in fierce clashes with police at a university campus into the early morning hours of Monday in what appeared to be some of the worst violence since anti-government protests began 5 months ago. Police late Sunday raided the campus of Hong Kong Polytechnic University, where a group of student protesters had barricaded themselves for most of the week, stockpiling makeshift weapons, including bricks and homemade explosives. Sunday night, the protesters lobbed their weapons at the police as the police advanced. Just after midnight local time, police warned they may use live rounds on protesters if they keep up the attacks. Since June, Hong Kong has seen massive regular demonstrations, which started in opposition to a proposed bill that would have allowed Hong Kong citizens to be extradited to the mainland. The protest quickly morphed into wider calls for democracy and opposition to growing Chinese influence. Former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg is apologizing for not ending the controversial stop-and-frisk police procedure sooner. This comes ahead of a potential Democratic presidential run. AP correspondent Julie Walker has more.
Addressing a black church in Brooklyn and noting some may have even been stopped and frisked when he was mayor, Bloomberg says he now sees he made a mistake.
I was wrong, and I'm sorry.
As mayor, he aggressively pursued the tactic, giving police wide authority to detain people suspected of a crime.
I got something important really wrong. I didn't understand that back then, the full impact that stops were having on the black and Latino communities.
Repenting in front of the congregation at the Christian Cultural Center shows the power and importance of black voters and the fact Bloomberg's record on stop and frisk could be one of his biggest vulnerabilities in a presidential run. Julie Walker, New York.
Syrian opposition activists say airstrikes on a rebel-held village in the country's northwest killed 5 people. The airstrike hit a village in Idlib province. It's the last major rebel stronghold in Syria. This is VOA News. Impeachment hearings targeting U.S. President Donald Trump are heading into a second week. Key witnesses are set to testify about how the president pushed Ukraine to investigate one of his chief 2020 Democratic challengers, former Vice President Joe Biden, while temporarily withholding military aid that Kiev needed. 8 more current and former government officials will appear before the House Intelligence Committee for nationally televised sessions. A central figure, Gordon Sondland, the U.S. ambassador to the European Union, is set to appear Wednesday. Last week in testimony behind closed doors, Sondland said he had warned an aide to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in early September that he would not get U.S. military assistance unless the Kiev leader publicly committed to opening the investigation of Joe Biden and his son. Former Defense Chief Gotabaya Rajapaksa won Sri Lanka's presidential election, seen by some as a strong hand to protect the country against extremism and by others as a man who should be tried for alleged war crimes. Reuters' David Doyle reports.
For some, Sri Lanka's new president is the man to defeat enemies of the state such as those who carried out deadly Easter Sunday attacks earlier this year. For others, he should be tried for war crimes over allegations of killings, torture and disappearances of scores of people during the final stages of a war against Tamil separatists a decade ago. Gotabaya Rajapaksa was declared the winner of Sri Lanka's presidential election on Sunday. He's the younger brother of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, and the pair, with Gotabaya as defense chief, gave the military a free hand in 2009 to crush the Tamil Tigers and end a 26-year war.
That's Reuters' David Doyle reporting. The World Health Organization is calling for stricter regulations on the marketing and sale of e-cigarettes as more information comes to light about the potentially harmful impact of these products. Lisa Schlein reports for VOA from WHO headquarters in Geneva.
Health officials are increasingly worried about the risks posed by e-cigarettes as reported cases of deaths and illnesses from these devices spread from the United States to Europe and beyond. The World Health Organization says it is disturbed that vaping devices continue to be marketed as products that are healthy and that can wean smokers off their nicotine addiction. Vaping is an extremely profitable growth industry. The number of people using vaping devices has increased from 7 million in 2011 to 41 million in 2018. Lisa Schlein for VOA News, Geneva.
Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei is backing the gasoline price rises that have caused nationwide protests since Friday. He blames the price increases on the country's opponents and foreign foes. Marissa Melton, VOA News.